Hi guys, welcome to Office Blokes React. I am Office Bloke Dave.
I'm Office Bloke Mike.
I'm Office Bloke Daz.
Together in a room with the Office Blokes.
Yes, we are.
Yep.
It is a true factual statement.
Yep.
The decline of Chuck E. Cheese's. What happened? Is this a bit more Company Man?
Yeah. Company
Love this channel.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
we like Company Man, don't we?
Yeah,
You know
great
what Chuck E. Cheese is, don't you?
I've heard of it because of watching American programs. It's
Yeah.
like a kids sort of restaurant chain.
It's like a
Is
pizza. It's like a pizza sort of style place.
Is it a soft play as well?
Soft play where
Yeah,
kids out there,
yeah.
like little kids parties are done there and all that, and they have like a big like mouse running around being Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah. Oh,
Sort
right,
of thing.
okay.
So,
More aware of Charles E. Cheese.
yeah. Makes more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chuck E. Cheese. I've took our kids to Chuck E. Cheese loads for kids, all the kids parties and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And they were
Right,
really
okay.
little,
Yeah, I'm trying to think what's similar. I'm sure we had one over here that was a chain, but I think it was more. I actually think it was pubs with soft play.
Yeah, went through a stage of a lot of pubs having soft play areas, but I don't know if it's still the
Yeah.
same now. My kids are growing up, so I
can't-
have quite a few like that.
Jungle Gym was it called or something?
Yeah, possibly.
Doesn't ring a bell,
I
but
don't know, but I think there's a place for places like this.
But yeah,
where-
all like arcades as well, like little arcade
Yeah.
games, all different types
Yeah.
of stuff where kids just go and have fun.
yeah,
You know,
It's
with a crazy
really-
mouse like a.
it's really so. There's like the parents can sit there and know that the kids are relatively safe over
Yeah.
there,
Mm.
and there's a gate, so
Yeah.
you know your kids aren't going to leave.
yeah.
And then you just sit and watch the gate with a beer in your hand.
And then you can leave safely with the drunken parents. And
Yeah,
My grandson goes to an area where there's a soccer pitch on one side, right, and they all play. It's indoor, like it's all net fenced off.
Right.
Inside,
Oh, yeah.
they go through like a little tunnel to get in. Then there's a restaurant for the parents and all that. Then there's a massive like soft play area.
yeah,
And then there's something else on the other side. I want to say it's like arcade games, like basketball hoops and
yeah,
the ones where the basketball keeps coming and you keep throwing it.
oh yeah.
Like things like a pool table maybe.
yeah.
Like when I've been in there a few times
Right.
with him
Yeah.
when I've been up there.
You need
Yeah.
stuff like that for
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's tough. It's hard work being a parent sometimes. I mean, you can actually take them to a place where it's safe. There's
Yeah.
loads of interaction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, it's great.
Doing things, getting physical. You know, a bit of a thingy,
Bit of exercise.
bit of exercise
Yeah.
and stuff. It's good.
Yeah. Let's do this then. As a bit of Company Man, the decline of Chuck E. Cheese's. What happened? Jesus Christ.
Turn it up a bit, Dave.
That's the volume's usually set at a set volume, but it's obviously been changed.
You know, I can always count on my audience to keep me up to date on the latest bankruptcy filings. I don't think any of them get past me. It can actually get a little depressing sometimes, but I still appreciate it. This one in particular, I used to love this place. Chuck E. Cheese is a combination of pizza and arcade games. What else can you ask for as a kid? In 2019, 56% of their sales came from entertainment and merchandise, and the remaining 44% came from food and beverages. Which is good, because they prefer to sell the entertainment and merchandise because they have a higher profit margin. They say it's intended for families with children between the ages 2 and 12, especially for birthday parties. 16% of the revenue came from reserved birthday party packages. And the buildings are far bigger than your average pizza place. That's because they have seating for over 400 guests, in addition to about 75 games, rides, and attractions, including the Ticket Blaster. You go inside this windy area and try to catch all these tickets flying around. I don't remember seeing
Kids
this
love
one
that
back
shit.
in the day, but
Yeah.
I have to admit that I would still not mind giving this one a try. Now,
I saw like one of those TikTok hacks, and it wasn't a kids one with tickets. It was
It's
a money
woman.
one.
Seen it.
Yeah, she just kind of puts her
Puts her
hands
hand there,
against
yeah,
the
I've seen it,
outside,
yeah.
and all the money just goes into her
Seen
hand.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how they're usually sketchy, these hacks, aren't
Yeah.
they? But
Yeah.
it looked plausible.
Yeah.
as someone who hasn't been there in probably more than 15 years now, I have to ask the question, what is this? Is this what kids today think of when they hear the name Charles Entertainment Cheese? Yeah, that's his full name, and it happens to be the funniest name I've ever heard. But this new guy, he plays guitar, wears jeans, and where is his hat? I don't know how I feel about this. I guess they changed him in 2012. This right here is the Chuck E. Cheese that I know. I can't
That's
even
bad.
tell you how many commercials I've seen with him running around that arcade. As I say all of this, the bankruptcy is very new, but it's looking like they're going to survive. Hopefully, they're just gonna close a few restaurants and come back from it stronger than ever. As far as the reasoning behind it, simply put, they've been in a financially dangerous situation for a while now, and then when this pandemic happened, they were forced to close locations, and the loss of sales proved to be too much. I'll talk more about it later. I have all these graphs made, but I have to say that this bankruptcy is just the latest addition to a pretty eventful history. It's technically not even the first bankruptcy. And how about this? Chuck E. Cheese was started in 1977 by Nolan Bushnell, who, believe it or not, is also the main guy who founded the video game company Atari. Chuck E. Cheese actually started as a division of Atari, and it was Bushnell's experience with video games that gave him the idea. He had sold so many of them to businesses who would set them up in their tavern or restaurant and recognized how they were the ones making the real money. He said he was selling these coin-operated games for $1,500, and then over their lifetime, they would earn $30,000 to $50,000 from all the people paying quarters to play them. So he thought that he would be better on that end of the situation, but he also knew that he needed to be unique about it. He had the idea of serving food, especially pizza, because it took time to prepare, and that wait time was the perfect opportunity to play some games.
Yeah.
It just seems like a given nowadays that you do stuff like this.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is? It depends on the areas, I always say. And, you know, I mean, people put it into, you know, when you look at businesses and you look at like Rush Home, for example, around here, how busy it gets for footfall. It's just packed day and night. Right?
Yeah.
Town, packed day and night. Then you go somewhere like Hale, quiet.
Yeah.
You know, but they're trying, but nothing's out, and they're wondering why is no one coming here.
Yeah.
You know, and you're thinking, people go for the grand gesture of sort of like doing something magnificent when all you have to do is something small.
You're right. You're completely right.
Make
something
it work,
right.
And make it work.
Of course. Yeah. Something a bit different, maybe.
Yeah.
Hale's a unique one though, because it's full of a lot of wealth and a lot of big houses, and a lot of people are going to have certain levels of entertainment and comfort in their own home as well. Because
good point.
Guaranteed, there's people with home cinemas, bowling alleys, stuff like that within a mile of the town centre. So they're probably going to want quiet pubs, nice restaurants.
Yeah.
I can't see anything with flair in Hale. You know, like a bowling alley or something like this. It lasts 5 minutes.
Absolutely nothing like that at all.
No.
Nothing.
He also had the idea of using animatronic entertainment. He had previously worked at carnivals, so he knew that once the characters were created, it was a cheap and effortless way to keep people's attention. At first, it was going to be called Coyote Pizza, but then when making the animatronic, the coyote costume that they ordered turned out to be a rat costume. Bushnell's immediate response was to just run with it, and instead call the restaurant Rick Rat's Pizza, which is not great for obvious reasons.
Terrible name.
Ultimately, because it sounds chipper and forces you to smile when you say it, the name was chosen to be Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater. Of course, the designs and the details have changed over the past few decades, but the general principle is still the same today. The issue for Bushnell here was that this was a division of Atari, and he had recently sold Atari to Warner the previous year. So though it was his idea and he was the driving force behind it, he did not own it. Luckily for him, I don't think Warner really wanted it. They weren't too interested in running an arcade-themed restaurant, so they were willing to sell it to him for the very reasonable price of $500,000, which he paid them over
When was this? In the late 70s?
Was it not early 80s?
Early 80s. Half a million.
Did he say?
I think he said, I'm sure he did. But still, $500,000. We're going back 40 years at least.
Yeah, I wonder what he got for.
For Atari.
Atari.
Well, pretty penny, you'd guess, wouldn't you?
Warner really wanted it. They weren't too interested in running an arcade-themed restaurant, so they were willing to sell it to him for the very reasonable price of $500,000, which he paid them over a 5-year span. Bushnell was forced to separate from Atari soon after, and that's when he started dedicating his full-time efforts toward Chuck E. Cheese. That first restaurant was a massive success from day one, so without hesitation, he opened an even bigger second location that was quickly followed by many more. They were such a hit that he was getting approached by people that wanted to open their own Chuck E. Cheese franchises. The notable one here is a deal that he made with Robert Brock. He owned this hotel company and was looking to own a bunch of Chuck E. Cheese franchises. The two made a deal to make it happen, then soon after, Brock wanted out of the deal because he instead wanted to work with someone else to start his own chain of similar restaurants. Bushnell then sued him for breaking the contract, and the end result was Brock being able to open and operate his own chain of similar restaurants called Showbiz, but he had to give a small percentage of the sales to Bushnell. Through the first half of the 1980s,
That worked out alright for him, didn't it?
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah, you can have your thing, but I don't need 10% for doing nothing.
It's like franchising itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
the two competed with each other, both expanding just about as fast as they could. They were going into debt, Chuck E. Cheese had a public stock offering, they were hustling to get the money from all angles so they can keep up with each other and continue growing. 1984 is when everything went bad. Back in the 1980s, when there was a new Chuck E. Cheese in your town, it was unlike anything you had seen before, so you're gonna want to bring out the family and check it out. There's a bit of a novelty aspect to it, meaning they're much more likely to get more business when they first open, and then you can expect that to slow down over time. Well, Bushnell was in a rush to open a bunch of these, so he didn't have time to wait and see whether or not the sales would fall, meaning he was opening new locations based on sketchy information, which led to many of the new ones being placed in less than ideal areas. The same thing happened with Brock, and to further complicate things, the great video game crash of 1983. They really dropped in popularity, and it was not a good time to be involved with them in any way. Just to put this all together, they had gone into debt to open dozens of restaurants, many of which were in poorly chosen areas, just before people stopped caring about the core of their business. I think we can see where this is headed. The poor sales meant Chuck E. Cheese couldn't keep up with that high debt, so they were forced into bankruptcy, which actually marks the end of that original chain. Showbiz, however, was able to navigate through it. They refinanced their loans and sold off about 15% of the company to raise money. Not only did they survive, they were able to put together $35 million to buy the assets of Chuck E. Cheese through that bankruptcy. So that right there, that is a strange turn of events. The imitator ended up beating the original. To me, that's like if Lucky Charms were to fail and then be acquired by Marshmallow Mateys. Well, the end result was a much larger company that now either owned or franchised almost 250 restaurants under both of the names Showbiz and Chuck E. Cheese. That's how they existed for the rest of the 1980s, some tricky transfers of ownership happening, but the two chains remained together but as separate brands. Then, in the early 1990s, they decided that it would be more efficient to simply combine them. They started converting all the Showbiz restaurants into Chuck E. Cheese restaurants because they figured that it would be smarter to have one powerful brand rather than two weaker ones. So oddly enough, for the next 5 years or so, the company itself was called Showbiz Pizza, but all of the restaurants were called Chuck E. Cheese. Then in 1998, they changed the name of the company to CEC Entertainment, finally marking the end of the name Showbiz after a pretty crazy 18-year run. Alright, getting back to the recent issues, they have had trouble attracting customers. They even implemented this whole revitalization strategy to try to breathe some life back into it. Some of the highlights would be an emphasis toward parents. I don't think parents like this place very much, they never really have, because it can get pretty chaotic, so they've been making this effort.
They get expensive places like that as a parent as well.
Just a bit.
I go to an arcade with the kids or a bowling alley or anything like that, and money just disappears, on all the machines, and before you know it, it's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, but if you're going to go as a regular thing, buy food, pay for all the games, everything else.
Probably it's all the things that they go on don't last long, do they?
No,
it's like a few minutes and it's done. Then they're gonna go again. It's like there you go.
Especially when you can only buy a wristband.
Yeah,
when you go and they sell the wristbands, you can do it all unlimited. You pay a little bit extra.
Yeah,
but go on, just keep going on it. Keep going on it.
I've never taken the kids anywhere with wristbands as of yet.
Yeah, Brighton Beach, Brighton Pier.
Right.
Yeah,
you can just go on anything.
Well, until he gets thrown off, which he did, jumping down the slide.
Yeah, I think one of the other issues with this is the fact that any bowling alley in this country, and I'm sure it's the same in the States, has got an arcade, it's got pool tables, it's got a bar, it's got a cafe that does pizzas, burgers, stuff like that. So this as an original concept was great, but then it's so imitatable.
Of course it is, massively. Yeah,
and you can modernise it to be a little bit classier, a little bit better, a little bit different.
Yeah,
but the same, but a little tiny little bit different.
Yeah. You've got all that money invested in certain games as well that probably go in and out of fashion quite a lot, as he alluded to.
But people stick with brands though as well. People like the brand, the comfort of a brand. Yeah. That's why McDonald's has done so well over the years.
That's true, yeah. But it is so imitatable, isn't it? Like I say, with soft play areas and stuff like that. And people do that a lot in pubs now, don't they? So
you can bet that every roller rink and every laser quest place, or laser tag, I think they call it over there, would be full of arcades, would do food.
They have multiple bits of entertainment in the places, don't they? They don't just stick to one thing, do they? They do have a vast array, don't they?
Yeah.
to focus their marketing toward them, and they changed their menu to include more items that they would like. They've been implementing this Play Pass card system where you use points as opposed to tokens just to make things simpler and quicker. They have remodeled 82 of their 612 locations. They now have Wi-Fi. It's hard to tell, but it looks like these may have helped a little. But in addition to the unpredictable revenue, they've been dealing with these rising expenses. Just a bunch of smaller things that have been adding up. Higher ingredient costs, changes in minimum wage laws causing their labor costs to go up, stuff that you might expect. But when you combine these higher expenses with the lower revenue, it results in a consistently lower operating income. Meaning, while operating these restaurants, they're making less and less money from it each year. But honestly,
I don't know what happened in 2014.
No.
Maybe there's major refurbishments going on or something.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, must have been.
I suppose that's operating income, not profits, though.
No, that's right.
It's just a bad year.
Must have been really bad.
Even with the pandemic complicating things, I would never expect these factors to lead to a bankruptcy. This operating income has been going down, but it's still very much in the positive. They've been making tens of millions of dollars every year, so here's the real issue, and you might see where this is headed. I think you'll agree that in 2014, their total debt took a pretty major leap, practically tripling to over $1 billion.
Refurbs.
And that's because in 2014, Chuck E. Cheese was bought by a private equity firm called Apollo Global Management for the price of $950 million. And that same year, Chuck E. Cheese spent $113 million to acquire a smaller Arizona-based pizza chain called Peter Piper Pizza, which I think happens to be another really good name. After those deals, they were loaded with debt, and over the last 5 years have not paid very much of it off. When you're making $50 million a year, that's really good, unless you have $1 billion in debt. You will never pay it off.
Yeah,
I've listened to a lot of sound bites of very rich people saying, you don't buy things with your own money. Why would I buy things with my money when I can buy it with your money?
Yep.
And that seems like
very
clever people have done that.
Of course it is, yeah.
They'll be happy with that level of debt because they'll probably just be paying off X amount.
Yeah, it depends on what your assets worth. That's what you're going through with the United.
Yeah.
They're not the same sort of thing. But it's...
the assets and what you're making has got to be able to service the debt. But it looks like they were like $1 billion in debt. If they're only making 50, 60 million a year, the interest is going to be more than that a year.
It was up to like 80. It was up to 80 million, I thought so.
Was it? Yeah, 60, 80 million. But
what, 800 million.
Yeah, it was,
yeah. 100 million.
There you go, that's the one.
The debt, is it?
Yeah, but I think that's... I'm not sort of financially clever enough to understand that sort of thing, but I've listened to a fair few people talking about it where it's like money. I think it's how people like property developers and stuff, when you own high-rise office suites and things like that, and you're constantly just borrowing against it, but it's an asset that goes up in value. And
exactly. Yeah,
there's loads to it. I've not got a clue. You just hear like a 20-second TikTok and go, that makes sense. Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Years have not paid very much of it off. When you're making $50 million a year, that's really good, unless you have $1 billion in debt. You will never pay it off that way. You're kind of living on the edge at that point. And there's also one more layer to consider that's been making this situation even worse. Nothing of what I've said so far has accounted for interest. When you are $1 billion in debt, you have to pay a lot of interest. That operating income is what they have before the interest expense is included, which is almost always greater. Meaning, once everything is included, they're actually losing money each year. They've reported losses 5 of the last 6 years since the acquisition. They are really never going to pay off the debt that way. With this trend, I don't see how they would ever really pay it off without something big happening, like maybe a bankruptcy. To summarize, Chuck E. Cheese has had some trouble as far as lower sales and rising costs. Nothing that I would consider too threatening, but then they went ahead and raised that debt to over $1 billion, which I don't think they can afford. For the last 5 years, they've been living payment to payment, and then when something happened to interrupt their cash flow, that was it. I think of Chuck E. Cheese as a person that was living so far beyond their means that a temporary pay cut led to the bank foreclosing on their house. Let me know in the comments, do you agree with that assessment? It is hard to deny that the $1 billion in debt added in 2014 through those acquisitions is their main issue, but is there more to it that I failed to mention? Also, what do you think of the early years of the company? It started as part of Atari and then went bankrupt and was bought by a competitor that was almost an early part of the business. There was some cool stuff happening there. And how do you envision Mr. Chuck E. Cheese? This guy right here will always be the true one in my heart, but maybe it's different for you. And any other thoughts concerning any of this, leave them in the comments.
Wow. I bet the board of directors are all on 7-figure salary, so the debt's going up, but there'll be a lot of
they'll take out the net profits. But what you've got as well is the assets which they own will probably be, the buildings. I don't know if Chuck E. Cheese own the buildings or the parent company own the buildings, or whether they were just leasehold, or leased or rented.
Yeah.
But if they own the buildings, then that won't be a part of the bankruptcy.
No.
That'd be probably a part of like a pension fund.
Separate, probably.
So then that'll go to the pension fund, and whatever's left over goes there. So the $1 billion debt wiped out for.
Seems like the takeover was a bit of a disaster. I mean, do we get it right? Did they borrow money to take the company over for $800 million?
Possibly.
I mean, they must have seen something that thought, actually, we can make money from this, but they're only making like 40, 50, 60, 80 million a year. And they must have thought, well, it's not making enough at the moment just to pay the interest off.
Yeah, but
it's bizarre.
Sometimes you see that companies buy other companies to put them out of business.
Yeah.
So
well, I suppose we have seen that before.
Companies will take over that, use that as a tax write-off, damage all the debt and everything that goes with it, and then just move on to shift it over to another company.
I'd love a deeper dive into where the money came from for each acquisition.
The investment companies.
And then what was written off against what else from another company and things like that. Because it's all just moving money around from one place to another.
And like I say, a lot of these people are really clever, aren't they? They know what they're doing. They know how to do it, and it's a bit mind-blowing to me, to be honest. How they do it, but
over here, I'm not sure how it works with bankruptcy, but I think it's something along the lines of the government get paid first.
Yeah.
So any assets you've got and any debts you've got, the government gets paid first.
Yeah.
And then everything else goes to your creditors.
It goes into a pot, then it's creditors and
get it.
Work their way down the list.
Yeah. So I don't know how it works in the USA. I'm not sure.
When they're owned by a parent company, though, there could be other things where, and again, this is pure speculation. I'm not clever enough to know this sort of stuff, but there might be investment funds that have interests in other places as well that might actually want to see it do badly.
Yeah.
And then another investment fund may come once it goes bankrupt.
You're shrinking the market to
take it over as a going concern for us for nominal fee. And
you might be writing off X amount of debt with the bankruptcy, but then the government want to sell it off for 200 million to recoup their costs. Yeah. And then your mate's private equity firm comes along and goes, I'll give you 200 million for that. That's great. And then it's just...
It's all everything. It's a going concern. Everything's in place, and straight away they're making a big profit.
Yeah, it's not straightforward as just the business strategy. I mean, this might be. I doubt it.
I'm sure it's highly.
When you're talking about these sums of money, it's all going to be very complicated. And
I mean, they have to go through a full audit of where the money's gone and where. Of course. I don't know if that's. I'm sure it's the same in the USA as it is here. Yeah. Anything like you go through a full audit, so an auditor will come in, go through everything, make sure you're not filtering money out left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
To make you profitable to take this down.
But I think a lot of these people are that clever; they can find ways around it in a legal type of way. Let's say
you get the auditors in before.
Yeah.
Especially over here.
Yeah.
We'll get the auditors in, audit it, go through it, make sure everything's clean.
Yeah.
Then do it, and then when the audits come in, they've got all their answers already. Tick, close it down. Administration, Chapter 11, whatever you want to call it. And and you go down, and then you say right, and then all the assets go to the pension fund or wherever it's gone. Company debt goes there. Everyone takes what they've got and they walk, and usually the owners walk away looking about 84% of what's left over.
Yeah.
Which is normally a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine. Big money, isn't it?
And they can just head to Switzerland where they keep all their money.
And all the directors. Just go and start again.
Yeah.
They just take the money and go and start, Chuck F. Cheeses.
Work way through the alphabet.
As long as it's not Dicky Cheeses.
Yeah, exactly. Knobby cheese.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. We've descended.
Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that. Don't forget, like and subscribe. Get over to Company Man as well. Great channel.
Yeah, brilliant.
See some of his other videos. Some of them are long and they are very good, very informative.
Well worth it though.
Yeah, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers, guys.